The warning ignored the galaxy had already made the mistake once. Long ago, when humans first stepped into the stars, the great empires laughed at them. They called Earth's people small, fragile, weak, but the laughter ended in fire. Fleets that mocked humanity were broken. Worlds that underestimated humans burned. And then, silence. For 100 years, no one dared test them again. But memories fade. Stories turn into legends. And legends turn into jokes. Now, in the present time, new voices in the galaxy laughed once more. In the Grand Council Hall of Aerith Prime, thousands of alien delegates filled the chamber. The banners of empires hung high, and the air buzzed with pride and arrogance. The subject of today's debate was simple: humanity. The Zorth Empire's ambassador stood tall, his scaled skin glittering under the chamber lights. He raised his voice so all could hear. Humans? He mocked. They got lucky once. Their victory was chance, nothing more. They are not warriors. They are not rulers. They are children who found sharp sticks and thought themselves kings. The chamber roared with laughter. Alien leaders banged their claws, fists, or wings against the tables. The sound echoed like thunder, but not everyone laughed. At the back of the chamber, a quiet figure sat in the shadows. He was old, thin, with pale skin and tired eyes. His name was Ambassador Velrin, one of the few who remembered the truth. He whispered to the delegate beside him. They mocked a human once before. Entire fleets vanished. Entire empires disappeared. And now they mock again. The delegate gave him a puzzled look, then laughed nervously to join the others. None wanted to believe an old man's warnings. Far away, on the edges of human-controlled space, Captain Daniel Kane watched reports stream across his ship's holoscreens. Aliens were moving fleets near human borders. Their messages were not hidden. They mocked openly. Some transmissions even broadcast insults. Weak humans, prepare to kneel again. Kane's jaw tightened. His ship, the Resolute, floated in the void with a small escort fleet. To many, it looked like a simple patrol. But Kane knew better. He turned to his officers. They think we are weak again, he said quietly. They think they can humiliate us twice. Lieutenant Arya, young but sharp, frowned. Sir, will the council act? Kane shook his head. The aliens laughed too loudly. The council believes them. They think humans are no threat. They ignore the warning. His eyes grew cold, but we will remind them. In the alien capital, the Zorth Emperor held a feast. Servants carried trays of steaming food in goblets filled with shimmering liquid. Music echoed through the great hall as the Emperor raised a glass. Let us celebrate. He roared. The humans have grown soft. Their fleets are small. Their courage is gone. We will strike them, and this time there will be nothing left to fear. The nobles cheered. Warriors slammed their weapons against the stone floor. The sound of arrogance filled the empire. But high above, in the cold void of space, human scouts watched silently. Hidden in shadows, their ships recorded every movement, every laugh, every word. They sent it all back to Captain Kane. Kane stood alone in the command chamber, reading the reports. He felt the old rage of history rise within him. Humanity had given the galaxy mercy once, but mercy had been forgotten. They don't remember, he muttered. His hand tightened into a fist. So we'll teach them again. He activated a secure channel. Across the fleet, commanders received the signal. Lights blinked red. Engines hummed awake. Orders spread like fire. Humans would not strike first, not yet. But they would not remain silent either. Back in the council hall, Ambassador Velrin tried one last time to warn them. His voice was cracked, but steady. You fools, he cried. You laugh at death. The humans you mock will not give you a third chance. If you push them, if you spit on their name again, your worlds will burn. I was there. I saw it. I heard the screams in the void. But his words were drowned by mocking laughter. The council ignored him. The galaxy ignored him. Only the humans. Listened Dot in the darkness of his command chamber. Captain Kane whispered the words that would one day echo across the stars. They mocked us once, and we showed them fire. They mock us again, and this time there will be no one left to warn them. Asterisk, the challenge, the warning, was ignored. The laughter of the alien empires echoed across the stars, louder than reason, sharper than truth. They remembered only jokes, not fear. And so their fleets moved. The Zoroth Empire, proud and cruel, made the first challenge. The first move on the edges of human-controlled space. A lone research outpost orbited a dead moon. Scientists worked quietly, studying mineral samples and energy storms. To them, war was far away. Then the void split open. From hyperspace, 12 Zoroth warships emerged. Their hulls glowed with blood-red markings, and their guns turned toward. The human stationed. The Zoroth commander, Lord Kravax, sent a message across open channels. His voice was filled with mockery. "Humans," he growled, "your weakness is known. Surrender your station. Kneel before the Empire, or watch your people burn." The scientists froze in fear. They sent desperate distress signals into the dark, hoping someone would hear. Kane's watch far away. Captain Daniel Kane was already listening. His fleet had been tracking Zoroth movements for days. Every laugh, every insult, every arrogant transmission had been recorded. Now, the signal came. In. The Zoroth were attacking a human outpost. Kane stood tall on the bridge of the Resolute. His officers watched him in silence. "They think this is easy," Kane said softly. "They want us to fight scared. They want us to beg." Lieutenant Arya clenched her fists. "Do we engage, sir?" Kane shook his head slowly. "Not yet. Let them believe their joke. Let them think they've won. The longer they laugh, the harder their silence will be." His eyes narrowed. "Prepare the trap." The mockery at the outpost, the Zoroth fleet opened fire. Plasma cannons tore into the station's shields. Alarms screamed as explosions shook its structure. Inside, the human scientists scrambled to escape pods. One of them, a young woman named Dr. Elise Ward, whispered into the comms, "If anyone can hear us, they're coming. They're mocking. U.S. again. Please don't let this be the end." Her voice was weak, almost lost in static. The Zoroth commander laughed as he heard it. "Pathetic. Is this the same species that claimed victory before? Where is your fire now, humans? Where is your strength?" His officers joined his laughter, filling the bridge with cruel joy. They didn't see the silent human scouts watching. Them from the shadows. The bait hours passed. The outpost was broken, its people taken as prisoners. The Zoroth fleet celebrated, broadcasting their victory across the stars. Other alien empires watched and laughed. Messages spread. The humans are finished. Their pride is nothing, but in hidden channels, Captain Kane sent his orders. Now we wait. They believe they've won. Soon they will send their fleets deeper. And when they do, he paused, his voice turning cold. We strike where it hurts. Inside, the enemy Lord Kravax sat on his throne-like chair aboard the Zoroth flagship. Servants poured him glowing drink as he boasted. "Humans," he said loudly to his crew, "are nothing but stories, ghosts of a war long past. Today, we have proved it. Their weakness shines like the sun. Their spirit is broken. Tomorrow, their fleets will fall. And soon, Earth itself will kneel." The crew roared in approval. Soldiers slammed their fists against their armor. The ship echoed with victory songs. But one officer, younger than the rest, frowned quietly. He had studied the old reports. He remembered the warnings. "My lord," he said carefully, "what if this is a trap? The humans are cunning. They could be waiting." Kravax glared at him, eyes burning with pride. "Silence. Humans have no teeth left. Their time is over." "Do not speak to me of fear." The officer lowered his head. But inside, his heart whispered otherwise. The silent fleet back. On the Resolute, Kane studied the data. The Zorith were celebrating too loudly, too proudly. "Just as expected," Kane murmured. He turned to his crew. "They mock us again, but soon the laughter will stop." He brought up the holonap. A hidden fleet, cloaked in dark space, waited. Near the Zorth supply lines. Another lay in silence near their homeworld. Every move had been planned. Every step of the enemy was being watched. "They think they've won," Kane said. "But in truth, they've walked into the jaws of the trap." The hooking the alien capital, the council replayed the Zorith's victory broadcast. More laughter filled the chambers. More arrogance filled the stars. Ambassador Velrin, the old voice of warning, covered his face in despair. "You fools," he whispered. "This is only the beginning. You've lit a fire you cannot put out." And far away, in the endless dark, the hidden human fleet prepared. Engines hummed, weapons locked. Soldiers waited in silence. The galaxy believed humanity was broken, but the humans knew the truth. The real fight had not even begun. Asterisk. The trap is set. The galaxy thought the humans were silent. But silence was never weakness. It was the sound of teeth being sharpened in the dark. The false victory the Zorith Empire celebrated across its worlds. Holoscreens replayed the attack. On the human outpost again and again, showing burning debris, screaming prisoners, and the mocking laughter of their commander, Lord Kravax. Crowds cheered in the capital streets. The Emperor declared, "The humans are broken. Their fire is gone. Once they fooled us, but now the truth is clear. They are weak, and we are strong." The message spread fast. Other empires joined in mocking humanity, calling them cowards who hid behind myths. But while the galaxy celebrated, Captain Daniel Kane's fleet stayed quiet. Their ships drifted like shadows, cloaked by silence. "They wanted proof of our weakness," Kane said coldly to his officers. "So we gave them one. Now they walk blind into the trap." The watching eyes' hidden probes floated near Zorith space, recording every move. Human stealth ships followed supply convoys, watching as the Zorith grew arrogant and careless. On the Resolute, Lieutenant Arias stared at the live feeds. Zorith ships partied in orbit, their discipline broken. Crews left their posts. Soldiers celebrated victories they had not yet truly won. "They think it's over," she whispered. Kane's eyes stayed fixed on the screens. "Good. The louder they laugh, the deeper the silence will be when it ends." Prisoners of the outpost on the ruined human outpost, survivors were chained in the Zorith flagship's lower decks. Dr. Elise Ward and the other scientists sat in the cold darkness. Guards taunted them. "You humans," one sneered, "were legends. Once, but legends fade. Tomorrow, your world will kneel." Elise raised her head, her eyes steady. "You don't understand," she whispered. The guard laughed. "Understand what?" "That humans never forget," she said. "And we never forgive." Her words unsettled the guard, though he tried to laugh again. Doubt in the enemy, the young officer who had warned Kravax before, grew uneasy. Each night, he replayed the old records of humanity's first war. Fleets vanishing, armies shattered. The silence that followed, he spoke quietly to a fellow officer. "What if this victory is too easy? What if we are being watched?" His companion laughed nervously. "You worry too much. Look at them, they hide, they beg. The humans are finished. But the doubt stayed. The young officer felt something in the dark, a weight pressing on his mind, as if unseen eyes stared from the void. The trapped Titan's reeks passed. The Zorith sent more fleets into human space, burning outposts, mocking as they went. Each time, humans pulled back. Each time, Cain let them believe they were winning. But behind the curtain, the human fleets moved like hunters. One fleet slid into the shadows near the Zorith homeworld. Another cut silently behind their supply lines. A third slipped into position above a star system where Zorith fleets would soon travel. Cain stood before the holomap, lines of light marking his hidden forces. He raised his hand and closed his fist. "The jaws are ready," he said. "Now we wait for them to walk inside." Arrogance at its peak, Lord Kravax, drunk with victory, prepared his largest assault yet. He would strike at a human colony, not just a station. His fleet of 30. Warships gathered in the void, their banners glowing red. "This will be the final proof," Kravax declared. "The humans will beg for mercy. Their people will break. And their name will be dust." His soldiers roared in pride. His officers drank in his words. But still, the young officer's heart was heavy. He whispered to himself, "Why do they not fight back? Why do they give ground so easily? Unless—" He stopped, dread crawling through him. Unless it was all a trap. The signal far away, the Resolute waited in dark silence. On the bridge, Cain's crew sat ready, hands on controls, weapons armed but hidden. Then the signal came. A quiet ping, barely a whisper in the void. The Zorith fleet had entered the marked system. They were exactly where Cain wanted them. His officers looked at him, tense, waiting. Cain's voice was steady, calm, almost cold. "Hold position," he ordered. "Do not strike yet. Let them laugh one last time." Hooking the Zorith fleet, Kravax stood before his soldiers, boasting over open combs. His voice echoed across the stars, heard even by human outposts hiding in silence. "Humans!" he shouted. "This is the end of your story. You cannot hide forever. You cannot fight forever. We will burn your worlds, and nothing will remain but dust and memory." The fleet cheered. The galaxy listened. But in the dark, the hidden human fleets surrounded them silent, waiting like wolves around prey. Cain watched the enemy through the hull screens. His hand hovered over the command. "Not yet," he whispered. "Let them believe. Let them laugh." His eyes turned hard as stone. "Because when the trap closes, there will be no escape." The first blow, the Zorith fleet believed it was invincible. 30 warships floated in formation above the quiet system, there, crimson banners glowing in the darkness. Lord Kravax stood tall on his command bridge, watching the stars as if he already owned them. "This," he declared, "will be the blow that ends the humans forever." His soldiers cheered, weapons primed, voices echoing with arrogance. Never saw the shadows moving. The silent hunters in the void beyond, humanity's hidden fleets waited. Their ships, cloaked in silence, were invisible against the backdrop of stars. On the Resolute, Captain Cain leaned forward in his chair. Every screen showed the enemy's proud formations. His officers sat tense, their hands ready over fire controls. 30 ships, Lieutenant Aria whispered. "More firepower than we can match head-on." Cain nodded slowly. "Which is why we won't fight head-on. We strike like ghosts. We cut where it hurts. And when they realize the truth, it will already be too late." He raised his hand. The bridge fell silent. "Begin the attack." The first strike from the darkness. 3 human frigates slid forward like knives. Their engines whispered only a flicker of light before vanishing again. They launched their weapons, torpedoes that carried no sound, no warning. The first Zorith cruiser never knew it was under attack. it simply exploded. A silent bloom of fire tore through its hull, scattering debris into the void. The second cruiser lost power in a flash of white light. Its systems burned, its engines died, and it drifted helplessly. The third was struck at its reactor. The explosion ripped through its spine, splitting the ship in half. Panic echoed across the Zoroth fleet. The arrogant Commodore Kravax roared in fury. "Find them! Find the humans! Where are they hiding?" His officers scrambled to scan the void, but the humans had already melted back into the shadows. Every time the Zoroth adjusted their sensors, the attackers were gone. "Cowards!" Kravax bellowed. "They strike from shadows because they cannot face us in open battle." But his words could not hide the fear spreading across his crew. Prisoners here deep inside the flagship, the human prisoners stirred as alarms shook the ship. Elise Ward raised her head, listening to the distant thunder of explosions. "They've come," she whispered, hope flickering in her voice. The guards cursed, running toward their posts. One sneered at her before leaving. "Your ghosts won't save you. The Zoroth never lose." But Elise smiled faintly. "Then you don't know humans." Strike after strike, one by one, human ships appeared from nowhere. A destroyer uncloaked just long enough to fire a volley before vanishing again. A corvette slipped into the blind spot of a Zoroth battleship, stabbing it with torpedoes before escaping. Each strike was surgical, precise, ruthless. Zoroth fleet grew smaller with every passing minute. Ships burned, crews screamed, systems failed. And still, the humans remained unseen. The young officer's realization on Kravax's bridge. The young officer who had always doubted finally saw the truth. His voice shook as he shouted, "My lord, it is a trap." "They've been watching. You, waiting for this moment." Kravax's eyes blazed with rage. "Silence. Humans are weak." But before he could finish, another Zoroth warship exploded outside the viewport, its wreckage scattering across the stars. The bridge shook from the blast. The officer whispered, almost to himself, "This is not weakness. This is vengeance." Kane's cold command back on the Resolute. The bridge lit up with enemy losses. Yet Kane's face remained calm, hard as steel. "Don't chase," he ordered. "Don't reveal too much. Bleed them slowly. Make them fear the silence." His crew followed without hesitation. They understood what he was doing, not just destroying ships, but breaking an empire's pride. Every Zoroth death carried a message. You mocked us. You laughed. Now listen to the silence you created. The turning point. Kravax's fleet was down to half strength when desperation took hold. He ordered his ships to form a tight wall, protecting each other. But that was exactly what Kane had waited for. "Target their formation," he commanded. "Collapse them inward." Human ships emerged from every side at once, surrounding the Zeno. Zoroth. Torpedoes and railguns shredded their defenses. One by one, their proud warships fell. The trap was no longer hidden. It was closing. The hook on the flagship, alarms blared. Fire tore through the lower decks. Kravax raged, slamming his fists against his chair. "This is impossible. They are supposed to be broken. They are supposed to be weak." But the young officer met his eyes, voice trembling. "You mocked them once. You mocked them twice. My lord, there will be no third time." Kravax froze as those words cut deep. Outside, the last of his cruisers exploded in silence. A human fleet pressed closer, shadows no longer hiding, but surrounding like predators ready for the kill. For the first time, the galaxy saw the truth. Humanity was not finished. Humanity was hunting. The fall of the fleet, the system was on fire. The proud Zoroth fleet, once 30 warships strong, was now a graveyard of burning wreckage. Human ships circled like wolves, their weapons flashing before fading back into the dark. The trap had snapped shut. The flagship under siege Lord Kravax's command ship shook with each impact. Sparks rained from the ceiling, smoke filled the bridge. Officers shouted over alarms, trying to keep control, but nothing worked. Shields. Failing, one screamed. Main batteries offline. Shouted another. Kravax's face twisted with rage. No, this cannot be happening. We are the hunters, not the prey. But even as he spoke, another explosion rocked the ship, hurling crew. Members to the floor. Kane's ruthless order on the Resolute. Captain Kane stood like a shadow carved from stone. His eyes never left the holomap, where red Zorath icons blinked out one by one. They're panicking, Lieutenant Arya said, her voice tense. Good, Kane replied coldly. Make them panic harder. Target their engines. Leave survivors let them watch their empire burn before they die. The crew obeyed. Missiles flew. Railguns tore through hulls. Torpedoes crippled ships, leaving them spinning helpless in the void. The humans did not rush. They cut with precision, like surgeons tearing the enemy apart piece by piece. The prisoners chanced deep inside the flagship. Elise Ward and the other human prisoners felt the ship shake under the bombardment. Guards ran wildly, their discipline. Broken Dot Elise whispered to the others, "This is it, the moment we've been waiting for." A young Marine among the prisoners revealed what he had hidden all along, a small tool stolen from the guards. With quick hands, he unlocked the chains. The prisoners armed themselves with whatever they could find: broken pipes, stolen blasters, sharp metal shards. For Earth, Elise said softly. For those who died. They moved as the ship burned. Around them, the young officer's choice on the bridge. The young Zorath officer, who had always doubted, finally broke his silence. He turned to Kravax, his face pale but resolute. "My lord," he said, "this is over. We must retreat. To stay is suicide." Kravax struck him across the face. "Coward! You dare speak of retreat? You shame the Zorath name." The officers, eyes filled with quiet fury. He had seen enough. His people's pride was leading them to ruin. And deep down, he understood a truth he could no longer ignore. The humans had earned this victory. Collapse of the armada outside. The battle reached its climax. 3 human destroyers emerged from cloak directly above the Zorath formation. They fired in unison, ripping through the core of the fleet. One battleship detonated in a chain reaction, its reactor exploding like a dying star. The blast consumed 2 more ships nearby. Enemy fleet reduced to 7 ships, Arya reported. Her hands shook, but her eyes were fierce. Kane's voice remained calm. Finish them. Moments later, 4 more Zorath ships were nothing but drifting fire. The proud armada of 30 was now reduced to 3 crippled warships. Kravax's Raga Kravax screamed, slamming his fists against his command chair. This is not possible. Humans are dust, shadows, myths. How can they? Another blast shook the ship, cutting him off. A console exploded behind him. Officers screamed, and then from the corner of the bridge came a voice. "No, my lord," said the young officer, blood on his face. "Humans are not myths. They are the storm we refuse to see." The prisoners rise at that same moment, Elise. And the prisoners stormed the lower decks. They overpowered the panicked guards, seizing their weapons. Smoke and fire filled the halls, but they pushed forward, step by step, toward the command center. "They'll know we're alive," Elise sighed, her voice trembling but strong. "They'll know we never stopped fighting." The humans who had been captives now became soldiers again. Kane's final command on the Resolute. Kane watched as the last 3 Zorath ships struggled to flee. His eyes hardened. No survivors. He said, the human fleet moved like predators closing in for the kill. Torpedoes cut through the fleeing ships. Beams of light shredded their hulls. Within minutes, the last of the Zoreth armada was gone. The system fell silent. Only wreckage remained, the hooking the silence after the battle. Kane spoke quietly, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Let the galaxy see this field of fire," he said. "Let them know what happens when you mock humanity twice." But even as the crew celebrated, a transmission came through one they did not expect. It was a human voice. Weak, crackling, but unmistakable. "This is Dr. Elise Ward. Aboard the Zoreth flagship, we are alive. And we are taking control." The bridge fell silent. Kane's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. Then the real victory begins. Rise of the captives, the Zoreth flagship was dying. Fire spread through its corridors. Alarms screamed, and entire decks fell silent as systems failed. The once mighty warship trembled, caught between survival and collapse, but within its burning heart, another battle had begun. Prisoners in the dark Elise Ward led the prisoners through the smoke-filled halls. Their chains were gone, replaced by stolen rifles and blades ripped from fallen guards. Beside her, Sergeant Holt, a scarred Terran Marine who had survived the first invasion, kept his weapon steady. "We don't get another chance, Elise," he said quietly. "We take this ship now, or we die here." Elise nodded, her face pale but determined. She was no soldier, but she understood the stakes. "We'll take it," she whispered. "For Earth, for everyone they mocked." The others followed. Scientists, soldiers, workers, even children who had been locked away, each one carried the fire of survival. The first clash, they reached the first checkpoint. A squad of Zoreth guards stood ready, weapons raised. The lead guard sneered. "Back to your cages, vermin." But Holt didn't wait. He fired first, a single burst that dropped 2 guards instantly. Elise and the others charged forward, their weapons blazing. The hallway exploded with chaos blaster fire, screams, sparks flying from shattered panels. When it was over, the Zoreth lay broken on the ground, and the prisoners still stood. Humans had claimed their first corridor. A voice in the shadows. As they pushed forward, a voice came over the ship's comms. Harsh, angry, filled with venom. It was Lord Kravax. "You insects think you can take my ship? I will burn you alive before I let you touch this bridge." His words echoed, but Elise only tightened her grip on her weapon. "He's afraid," she whispered. "That means we're close." Betrayal within on the bridge, Kravax stood surrounded by smoke and failing systems. His crew was shaken, their confidence broken. The young officer, the one who had doubted, watched as Kravax raged. Something inside him snapped. He had seen too much death, too much pride turned into ruin. "My lord," he said softly, "you have already lost." Kravax spun, eyes blazing. "Silence." He drew his blade and pressed it against the officer's throat. "You will obey." The officer stared back without fear. "Not anymore." At that moment, the prisoners broke through the outer doors of the bridge. The battle for the bridge, the doors exploded inward, smoke rushing through as Elise and her group charged. Blaster fire lit the air. Guards fell one after another. There. Discipline shattered by the fury of desperate humans. Holt roared, covering Elise as she sprinted forward. Bridge secured in 3 minutes' move. The young officer made his choice. Instead of resisting, he turned his weapon on his own people, firing into the ranks of stunned Zoreth crew. Kravax howled in rage. "Traitor!" But before he could strike, Holt tackled him. The 2 warriors clashed, fists and blades echoing in the chaos. ***. Elise's stand, while Holt fought Kravax, Elise reached the command console. Sparks burned her hands as she forced the controls alive. She opened a comms channel, her voice breaking but strong. "This is Dr. Elise Ward. To any human ship in range. We have seized control of the Zorith flagship. Repeat, the flagship is ours. On the Resolute, Captain Kane froze for just a moment. Then, a rare smile touched his lips. Bring them into the fleet, he ordered. The galaxy must see this. The dual Kravax and Holt clashed in the center of the bridge. Kravax's blade cut deep across Holt's arm, but the Marine did not fall. He struck back with raw strength, forcing the alien warlord onto his knees. Called us weak, Holt growled, blood dripping down his arm. But you never understood. With a final blow, he drove Kravax down, shattering the warlord's command staff. Kravax fell, his roar fading into silence. The flagship belonged to humanity now. The rising flame Elise looked around the captured bridge. Humans stood where aliens once commanded. Prisoners had become liberators. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the smoke-filled air. They mocked us twice, she whispered. But now the galaxy will hear our answer. The prisoners cheered, their voices echoing through the halls of the captured warship. Outside, the human fleet moved closer, their ships surrounding the crippled flagship. For the first time in generations, a Zorith warship flew under human control. And this was no ordinary warship, it was their flagship, the symbol of their pride. The hook on the Resolute, Kane watched the towering ship drift into human formation. His eyes were cold, but his words carried steel. Send the message across the stars, he said. Humanity has returned. And we are not done. The galaxy would soon learn the truth. The fall of one fleet was only the beginning. The war was far from over. Asterisk, the last laugh of the battlefield was silent now. Wreckage drifted like ash across the stars, glowing faintly in the dying light of shattered warships. Among the ruins, one ship still burned bright, a massive Zorith flagship, and now it no longer carried their banner. It flew under human control. The flagship reborn on the bridge. Elise Ward stood tall despite the smoke and wounds. Behind her, the surviving prisoners no longer captives, but free-manned the consoles. Sergeant Holt leaned against the captain's chair, his arm wrapped in bandages. Never thought I'd see the day, he muttered, staring at the alien. Controls now glowing under human hands. Elise's voice was steady. The day is here, and the galaxy will see it too. She opened the comms to the fleet. This is Elise Ward. The flagship of the Zorith is under human command. I repeat, we control their pride. The words spread across the void like fire. Kane's cold smile on the Resolute. Captain Kane listened in silence. The bridge crew cheered, but his face was carved from stone. Finally, he spoke. Broadcast this to every channel, every relay, every outpost in range. The galaxy must witness this moment. Lieutenant Aria blinked. Sir, the whole galaxy? Yes, Kane said softly. Especially them. He didn't need to explain. Them meant the Zorith Empire. Kravax's last breath deep in the shadows of the captured bridge. Lord Kravax lay broken. His once mighty armor was shattered. His blade snapped in half. The young Zorith officer knelt beside him, but not out of loyalty. His eyes were cold. Kravax's voice was a rasp. How did it come to this? The officer's reply was simple, almost cruel. Because you mocked them. Twice. With that, he turned away, leaving the warlord to die with his pride. A broadcast across the galaxy, in hidden stations and great capitals. People stopped to watch. On every screen, the image appeared the Zorith flagship, scarred but still alive, flying beside the human fleet. And then a voice carried across the stars. It was Elise's, strong, unbroken, filled with fire. To the galaxy, hear this. Humanity has returned. You left us for dead. You mocked us. You called us weak. But look, now your greatest warship is ours. Your proudest fleet is ashes. We are not shadows. We are the storm. And we are coming. The reaction panic spread across the Zorth worlds. Their leaders trembled. Their citizens whispered in fear. The symbol of their dominance had been taken, humiliated, turned into a banner of human strength. And on distant worlds, long oppressed. Species lifted their heads in hope. If the humans can rise, they whispered, perhaps we can too. The spark of rebellion had been lit. Kane's final order back on the Resolute. Kane gave his final command of the campaign. Set course for their nearest stronghold, he said. We'll deliver their flagship back to them, burning. The crew held their breath. They understood what it meant. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore. They were striking back. The last laugh would not be quiet. It would echo across the stars. The promise on the flagship's bridge. Elise placed her hand on the console, feeling its pulse like a living thing. This ship once carried chains for us, she whispered. Now it carries freedom. Holt stood beside her, his eyes burning. And it will carry fire to those who thought we were finished. Elise nodded. She could feel it too, the shift, the weight of history bending. The galaxy would never forget. This day, the last laugh as the human fleet moved out, dragging the captured flagship into formation. Kane's voice carried one final time. Let them write it in every record, in every archive, in every history they keep. Humanity was mocked. Humanity was underestimated. But humanity does not bow. He paused, his cold eyes fixed on the stars. The last laugh is ours. The fleet jumped into the void, carrying with it the fury of a species once broken, now unchained. Asterisk.